All right, the intention of this video is to show you real quick how to create a project on DonorsChoose. So if you're a teacher thinking about creating a project on DonorsChoose, hopefully this will give you an inside look before you go through the whole process of how to do it, help you decide whether or not you want to use it. I will say check with your school board before you create a DonorsChoose project. There are some school boards that do not allow you to do this type of thing. If they haven't developed a policy, I would probably, you'll have to feel it out for yourself, whether you want to go the ask for forgiveness instead of permission route. But I know as educators, we are committing triage, which is my next point or reason for showing you this video, is because I do understand that there is, as an educator, we're all committing triage. Basically, we don't all get enough time to do everything we really need to do in a day. And so hopefully this video will kind of help you decide whether this is a battle you want to pick. There will be some DonorsChoose colleagues that will have you convinced that this is the silver bullet, just like with every other education movement out there. And I will say this is probably the most effective of silver bullets that I've seen in the industry of education. However, there's also got to be, I have a huge acknowledgement for the fact that what works for me in my classroom may not be what you need or what does work for you in your classroom. So you'll have to decide that for yourself. Little background for me is I teach industrial arts, Spanish, and CAD class at a very small K-12 school. And I was brought in without a curriculum existing for any of those content areas. So I've had to build all that up from the ground up, from curriculum and environment. So DonorsChoose has worked excellently in my circumstances. I will say it's kind of like a criminal enterprise in the fact that I keep telling people, well, I'm looking to get out of it someday. Like, there's a day I want to focus fully more on my teaching craft more than my fundraising craft. But the circumstances currently are that to improve my teaching craft, I need to improve my teaching environment. So that's a little background, the backstory, and you'll have to decide for yourself what works for you. So there are 3 types of projects that you can choose. There is a standard project, student-led, and professional development project. And each project has its pros and cons. Standard is you just issuing a quick project. So I need a Spanish library for my Spanish class. I'm going to make that request, and then boom, I send that request in. We're good to go. Student-led is for the student that comes to me and says, Mr. Barbercheck, I want Spanish Harry Potter books. Well, what I'll do in that situation is these download printable instructions. I keep a packet of them in my room, and then I just hand them that packet whenever they give me an I wanna. And if they really want it, they'll go home and they'll fill it out and they'll complete it. Okay. And if they don't, then they'll quit saying I want it because they realize they don't want it that bad. I think this is a great avenue. I haven't fully succeeded in implementing it at all. Just because standard is quicker for me than trying to get students to, come up with their own wants and their own appeals and then going through their writing with them. However, I will say I have a sincere interest in providing this opportunity to them sometime when it is a battle I can pick, because it is a very authentic writing challenge for them. So I see value in that. And then professional development is something that's very good for teachers who think they might be moving districts. And here's why I say that. I'd mentioned you want to check with your school board about DonorsChoose, and I also would encourage you to check their material ownership policy, because it does deviate. It does. Let's say I put in an appeal letter for this Spanish library, and my friends and family back, maybe I even fund part of it myself, and then I moved districts. Well, I had to leave that Spanish library with the district. Okay, that's part of the material ownership policy. There is a loophole where if I get the right signature at the right time and everything else. However, I don't see that being very likely. I got to get that signature from my principal, because what if my principal also chipped in to that Spanish library project? All right, and he probably chipped in thinking that it was an investment not in me so much as an educator, but maybe in the district. Maybe alumni chipped in. And so there's also tax consequences as to who receives the gift, whether it's the educator or the district. And so read that. Just read the material ownership policy and have an understanding of it before you move forward. But if it gives you reservations because you don't want to do that legwork and then move districts and lose your Spanish library, then seek professional development. I could take a professional development course in how to teach Spanish novels in my Spanish curriculum. That would be very helpful to me. And then when I move districts, I'm not going to lose that experience. That experience is going to come with me. So if you are in a leapfrog state for one reason or another, I would encourage you to at least get your feet wet with DonorsChoose by pursuing a professional development project. But for this demonstration, we're just going to do a standard project. And we're going to go ahead and go to the who portion. And in the who portion, you're telling us all about your students. And your students will say, or you will say, my students are this and this and that. For every part of the operation, you can just click in the description and this gold little prompt thing will come up. And then you've also got good examples you can click upon and you can read and you can kind of take notes from those examples. Be your ideal student in this process. What I mean by that is don't be a hypocrite. Be your ideal student. Read the directions, read the prompts, check out the examples, and you'll be fine. It's a pretty simple process if you do that. They've done a good job of pretty much taking what's a very complex, sometimes ambiguous and intimidating process of like grant writing, and they pretty much have made it with coaching points the whole process. So I would say it's even if you don't plan on submitting this to DonorsChoose, I would say it's a good writing exercise for just making appeal letters or making grant writing letters or request letters. And so keep that in mind. Now your classroom photo, this is another area you'll want to read the directions. Click on the pictures. Their main concern with the photo safety guidelines is that you're not posting pictures of youth or kids without their permission onto the internet. Now, I'm going to go back to the high portion here real quick, and I'm going to talk about really quick match offers. Now, I think your first project after you've set up an account will give you some sort of match offer. I can't remember, but I'm sure they'll clearly communicate that to you. But as you get more and more projects done, you can click on that page that I just clicked on, and it'll show you match offers that are available and then the requirements for those match offers. So I usually try and seek these out just because it's pretty much the same as getting 50% off on your requests. And basically the UPS Foundation has said on this one in particular that environmental science projects in rural schools will get a match from them. Meaning if you donate $5 to my project, so will the UPS Foundation. And that's pretty cool. Again, read the directions. There's a couple note pointers I want to give you here. This one right here, there's usually a total project goal on match projects that you have to keep it under, meaning like you can't just say, oh, I'm going to write a match project for $10,000. They're going to limit you. And so that they can get more teachers kind of benefiting from the match. And what I recommend you do is shoot for $2,500 when you're shopping, because remember, you're going to have taxes, shipping, and suggested donation. If you think you're going to get close, you can write a $300 project and not even have to worry about it. But if you think you're going to get close, shoot for $2,500 and then sneak up if you still have more to add, but it's easier to sneak up than it is to chip away. And then make sure you select environmental science as your subject, which I'll show you how to do that as well. So we've talked about standard, student-led, and professional development. We've talked about match offers, and then we went ahead and talked about the who of your students and everything else. And I've shown you that they do a pretty good job of coaching you along the way. You've got examples, you've got coaching points, prompts on the side, and then you're going to go ahead and continue once you've provided your look at this. They even tell you you're doing great. I mean, it's just like they're just like a teacher, just like having a reflection of your own teaching right in front of you, I'm sure. Now, when you go to the what page, this is actually what you'll see. You won't see what I showed you because I've already done this a little bit. So you're going to see the list of vendors that have already integrated their system with DonorsChoose system. So you go shopping on Granger and then you hit cart, submit cart, and it just goes right into the DonorsChoose system. And it's pretty cool. But let's say your vendor's not on here. You can submit a special request. Now, go ahead and let's see here. I'm going to show you the Amazon business because it's probably the most common vendor you'll use. Read the directions. Read it and remember, be your ideal student. Read the directions. I'm not going to read them to you. And let's say that I want safety glasses for my program. one of the things that are in the directions was they have to be prime products. So see this symbol, prime, prime, prime. Okay, you want to pick something like that. But there are things like these. Let's see here. See if I can find one without a prime. Okay, this one, these 3M safety glasses do not have a prime symbol. I've made the mistake of adding those to my cart, submitting my cart, and then wondering why they don't show up because prime products aren't integrated with the DonorsChoose system. So what I do is refine by prime. By prime, you should refine. This kind of rhymes. Where is the refine by prime? There it is. Okay, select refine by prime, and then only prime products show up, and then that, because it's hard to catch that little symbol sometimes, especially when you're like really picking for what it is that you want. So that will help you. Now, with Amazon, you can add these to your cart, and before you hit the submit these items for approval, make sure you're happy with the quantity of everything in your cart. So maybe you want 5 of these. Okay, and I've just been playing around in preparation for this video, and maybe 4 of those. Well, the reason you want to make sure that you are changing your quantity here and you're happy here is because when you do this, they won't let you change your quantity in the DonorsChoose interface. And then you'll have to remove it, go back in, find your product, and resubmit it, which can be tedious. So make sure you're happy here. Now, if you're worried about like getting all your shopping done at once, because maybe you don't know exactly what type of safety glasses you want. Maybe you want yellow lens ones. I don't know, and you got to wait for some piece of information from your students or your administrator or something else. You can still exit out of this. You can even exit out of this. DonorsChoose will automatically save your project under the draft projects. And then you can reopen this. You can come in here, Amazon Business, just like on your Amazon personal account. They don't drain your cart unless you intentionally remove it. So it'll still be in the cart. And so you can take your lunch break without losing everything and then go ahead and submit them for approval. And once they're submitted for approval, it'll pop up in your list of things, which, like I said, I've been playing around with this for a little bit, as you can see. And notice how on the Amazon, it gives you that warning. You can't change your quantities. So let's say I have 4 of these and I wanted 2. Well, I can't just easily change it. What I actually have to do is hit remove it from the system, and then go back into Amazon, find the product, and then hit 2. Now, I put this on here. This is from Granger. Granger's got a little easier user interface. Some of them, you will be able to change the quantity right there in the DonorsChoose cart, which I think is really cool. All right. You have to have your materials cost more than $100 in order to proceed. Now, right here, this is a warning to me that I have 8 projects in process. So I want to talk about that real quick. DonorsChoose limits you to 8 projects in process. And in process means everything from submission, meaning it's getting screened by a DonorsChoose volunteer or DonorsChoose employee, to thank you packages. All right. And so in between screening and thank you packages, you have posting, you have acquiring donations, you have funded, you have confirming that you still need the funding, you have thank you packages, which involve a thank you letter from you, thank you letters from your students, and pictures. So you have this whole process that you have to go through. And if it's anywhere in between those 2 starts and finishes, it's considered in process. It doesn't mean I have 8 projects on DonorsChoose. Now, there's also a point system in place. So all 8 projects can't be like $10,000 projects. You can't request like $80,000 and have 8 projects going on at once. I will say both of the thresholds that DonorsChoose has put in place are pretty accurate thresholds, as to the point that if you're doing more than this, I feel like I've done a lot to get those 3 programs started that I told you about. And I'm hoping to wean off, get that criminal enterprise, like that I joke about. Well, I'm hoping to get in and get out of it. That's kind of my goal with DonorsChoose, is just get in, get the environment, the teaching environment I need for those 3 content areas, and then kind of fade out of it, because I want to focus on my teaching craft, not exactly my fundraising craft. So those limits are put in place because I think DonorsChoose wants the same for you. I don't think they want you focusing on your fundraising craft. They put those limits. And I will say, if you're able to do more than that, and more than the point system allows you, or more than the project system allows you, then you're probably doing more DonorsChoosing than you are teaching. And that's a red flag. That's an issue. You don't want to go down that road. So make sure that, you don't have to make sure about anything, because this is probably your first project. So this won't be a big deal, but just so you know, going down the road, that is something that they do. Now, I encourage 3 C's when it comes to summarizing what's in your cart and your title, which is clear, concise, and clever if you can. If you had to sacrifice any of that in this part, I would sacrifice clever. It can be evident when you try too hard. So I'm just going to say my students need safety glasses for their industrial arts class. And because not everyone knows what industrial arts is, or in some places it's actually like an out-of-date term, but that's a discussion. That's an entire discussion there on semantics, so we won't get into that. Students need safety glasses for their industrial arts or shop class. And we're good to go with that, all right? And again, coaching points, plus they even tell you like, nice, they give you encouragement. I mean, it's great. You're doing great. Everything's great. How would you classify it? Go to save and continue. This next part is the why, all right? It's all about the why. So come with the project title, clear, concise, and clever. I took a play off of, well, you can recognize it. I is before E, except after C with safety glasses. And I don't know, you don't want to pick something that goes, I want this and that and this. Oh my, that has become DonorsChoose cliche. It's frowned upon now. Not allowed. Well, I'm just kidding. It's allowed, but there's an inside joke there. All right. Tell us about your project. Again, examples. Again, writing prompts. Boom, boom. Be your best student, and you'll have that done in no time. All right, subject areas. This is where we want to make sure environmental science is selected. Now, you can only pick 2, all right? Oh, I got 2 selected. I can't pick 3. All right, so if you're going for the match, I guess, then you want to make sure you have environmental science selected. It might depend on whatever it is you're doing. If I'm doing Spanish, I'm going to want to deselect that and select foreign languages. Whatever else. Great. Now we got a foreign language environmental science project. I'd like to see what that looks like. Actually, that'd be fun. Now, the review page is very handy in that it gives you everything to edit. You can view it all at once. I recommend, again, being your best student by having somebody proofread it if you can. If you can't, read it out loud, hear how it sounds. And then the other thing, proofreading strategy I have when I have no one else around it, is I read it backwards to forwards. That way my flow doesn't just become dominant and overlook errors. And then check out how it looks on search results. So this is when I go shopping for a project, this is what I'm going to see. And so I'm going to see that title. And so you want to put yourself in the shoes of the donor. And is it clear and concise? And then clever, bonus points for clever. And then mobile devices. How does it look on a mobile device? And so that'll be important too. Now you're about this one here, there is the minimum word and there's a maximum word. So they're going to let you write a 4-page essay. And so that challenge can be fun. And then this one here, I actually leave this the same. I haven't changed this for I don't know how many projects. I just leave this the same. This part here, I never copy and paste. You'll see some teachers who will kind of regurgitate information. And I would say you can reuse a lot of your material here. I'll talk about why you might, but I would not directly copy and paste. I would definitely do some mixing upping if you're doing like a ongoing project. And I'll talk about that, what that looks like here in a second. They list your items in order from most expensive to least expensive. Your donors will have a view of all this stuff, so they'll see exactly what it is you're asking for. It's great for the donors because they're giving a charity and they know exactly what it's going to. And then you're good to go. So let's talk about your project goal. You want to keep that low because a low project goal has a higher success of funding, meaning that I'm more likely to give $1 to a $200 project than $1 to a $2,000 project. My drop in the bucket feels bigger on the $200 project than it does on the $2,000 project. So let's say I want to build a Spanish library. What I'm going to end up doing is, let's say it's $1,000 for all the Spanish books that I want. In total, I might break that up so that this is called Spanish Library Part 1 or whatever it is. And then I'm going to request the books I want and then go from there. And then I'll do Spanish Library Part 2. Now, and I'll do Part 3, Part 4, Part 5. I might keep a running dialogue of this, of a story as I'm doing the parts. And then I might even, I definitely would reference my donors who helped me get past 1 in this description. Be like, thanks to donors like you. I would definitely do that at the very least. And then again, just mix it up just enough. And I will say that costs a little more time because instead of 1 thank you package, you got 5 thank you packages to do. Time commitment is not major, but you'll feel it. I mean, it's impactful. It's not easy breezy, boom, boom, boom. I will say it might be easier than fighting the bureaucracy at your school if you're going for funding that way, or maybe it's not, depending on your school. You'll have to decide. But pick the smaller bites, even though it might bite you more time, because it's a gamble. And if you look back at my projects, you're going to be like, wow, you're such a hypocrite. I have gone for higher cost projects because I teach industrial arts, and that's just a higher cost program. I've also didn't want to take, to me, it was worth the risk of biting off more a bolder request and saving myself time, because starting 3 programs up, I knew I wouldn't have the time, and I went into that gamble thinking I was a shot in the dark, and sometimes you make shots in the dark, and I did. And so now that I know my donor base pretty well, I've connected with a lot of them. I also know where that line is too, so I can kind of gauge where their level of enthusiasm is. I can gauge where my abilities are, and I've just got better kind of judgment on how much I should ask for a project. And honestly, the number value, the dollar value falls to the wayside for me. Usually if I'm making the request, it's because it's a need that I'm passionate about, and while I'll use the constraint of a match fund to help bring the most to the table, it just kind of becomes slightly arbitrary after a while. Definitely something you're thinking about, but you're not. I'm not sure what exactly I'm trying to say here, but hopefully, I think I could just carry on a conversation about this for a while if I had someone with me to participate with. But I'll cut you short on that because you don't want to hear all my ramblings. And instead, hopefully that helps you. And hopefully I've included all the little tidbits for you. And I don't know. Thank you for watching this video. Signing out is I just don't know how to sign out. One time I went to sign out from video for my kids, and I didn't know how to stop the video. That was embarrassing. Anyways, I will, I'm going to sit here just a little bit more awkwardly longer, just to really frustrate you. If you're still here, you should probably, well, man, I don't even have anything clever for that.